Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello everyone. Today we will be presenting our study on fraud and internal control in Sudan's insurance industry. My name is Nosaiba Mohammed and I'm joined with my colleague Leem Ahmed on behalf of our team from University of Khartoum, consists of Dr. Abdallah Ahmed, Leina Samir, Sara, Mohammed and Tasneem Mosadag. Together we will explore the challenges of fraud, the role of internal control and the implications for the insurance sector in Sudan. Insurance companies play a vital role in economic development by encouraging savings and offering financial resources. They profit by charging premiums that cover expected claims and include profit margin. However, the industry faces significant challenges, particularly in managing fraud and ensuring robust internal control. Internal control systems are designed to protect company assets, ensure the accurate financial reporting, and promote compliance with the regulations. In Sudan, the Insurance and Takaful Law of 2003 aimed to regulate cooperative insurance. Despite this, fraud remains a persistent issue involving policyholder, service provider, and even internal employees. Common fraudulent activities include false claims, document falsification, collusion, and financial statement manipulation. Our study identifies several key issues in Sudan's insurance industry. First, there is a clear existence of fraud, which undermines the sector integrity. Second, many companies lack separate and efficient internal control department, leaving them vulnerable to fraudulent activities. Third, there is a limited legal protection for companies that publish fraud blacklists, which discourage transparency. Additionally, there is a lack of documentation for detected fraud cases, making it difficult to track and address these issues systematically. Finally, the absence of a centralized fraud reporting system further complicates efforts to combat fraud effectively. To address these issues, we collected both primary and secondary data. For the primary data, we distributed structured questionnaire to employees of Sudanese insurance firms and conducted semi-structured interviews with senior officials from insurance companies and the National Insurance Authority. For the secondary data, we analyzed financial statements from insurance firms for the years 2020 and 2021 and reviewed academic literature, industry reports, and Sudanese regulatory documents. Our data analysis techniques include descriptive statistics to measure perception of fraud and internal control, correlation analysis to investigate relationship between variables, and the Benisham score to detect financial statement manipulation across 10 insurance firms. Our research was guided by two key hypotheses. First, we hypothesized that there is a relationship between internal control and the extent of fraud in Sudanese insurance companies. Second, we proposed that there is a relationship between regulation and the extent of fraud in these companies. These hypotheses formed the foundation of our analysis. In testing the first hypothesis, the mean indicates that the fraud is a significant concern, and the low standard deviation suggests a shared perception of fraud prevalence. The reliability of the conclusion supported by Compaq Alpha, which ensured that the responses from participants provide valid insight into the relationship between internal control and the fraud, and a correlation of 0.6, indicating a strong positive correlation between internal control and detected fraud cases, meaning that 40% of the variation in fraud can be explained by the variation in internal control. The low value of standard error of the estimate indicates that the model predicts fraud level with a reasonable accuracy, while the high F value shows that the regression model as a whole is significant. Internal control, as predicted, meaningfully explains variance in fraud level. The B value confirmed the model's significance at the 0.001 level, providing strong evidence against the null hypothesis that internal control has no effect on fraud. It also indicates that the relationship is statistically significant. In the absence of internal control mechanism, the predicted value of fraud is 1.9 for every 1.9, and for every 1 unit increase in internal control, the fraud is reduced by 0.5 unit, holding other factors constant. This is approved as well by standardized coefficient beta of 0.6. Furthermore, since the tolerance and variance inflation factor are equal to 1, this ensures that the stability and reliability of the coefficients for internal control, showing there is no collinearity in the model. All these statistical measures support the hypothesis that internal control significantly reduces the fraud in Sudanese insurance companies.
Thank you, Nosaiba, for that insightful overview. Before we begin, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Leem Ahmed, and I will take over to the second hypothesis. In testing the second hypothesis, the mean suggests that participants generally perceive the regulation in Sudanese insurance industry to be fairly robust, but not without room for improvement. The standard deviation is slightly higher, indicate more variability in participant response. This may reflect a recognition that while regulation exists, they might not fully address the challenge posed by fraud. A Cronbach alpha of 0.7 indicate that the items used to measure fraud and regulation are sufficiently reliable for analysis. The R and R square indicate a moderate correlation between regulation and fraud prevention, meaning that regulation alone are not sufficient to combat fraud. The low value of a standard error of estimate indicate that the model predicts fraud level with reasonable accuracy, while the relatively high F value showed that the regression model explain a significant amount of variance in the level of fraud. The V value showed that model is statistically significant. This confirmed that the independent variable, the regulation, contribute meaningfully to predicting fraud. The B value showed that the model is statistically significant. This confirmed that the independent variable, the regulation, contribute meaningfully to predicting fraud. In absence of regulation mechanism, the predicted value of fraud is 2.595, and for every 1 unit increase in regulation, fraud is reduced by 0.352 units, holding other factor constant. This is confirmed as well by standardized coefficient beta of 0.387. Furthermore, since the tolerance and variance inflation factor are equal to 1, this ensures the stability and reliability of coefficient for internal control, showing that there is no collinearity in this model. While this relationship is not as strong as that of internal control, it is still support of our hypothesis that regulation are associated with change in fraud level. To further understand the extent of fraud, we applied the Benish's M-score model. The results were concerning. 70% of the analyzed insurance company had M-score above the fraud threshold, indicating likely financial manipulation. Key high-risk variable indicate that the sales gross index (SGI), where 80% of the firms exceed safe threshold, suggesting pressure to maintain growth. Additionally, 70% of firms exceeded threshold for selling general and administrative sales, indicating potential cost manipulation. Finally, 50% showed irregularity in assets depreciation reporting, further highlighting vulnerabilities in financial reporting. In conclusion, this research examined the role of internal control in mitigating insurance fraud in Sudan, emphasizing the critical connection between robust internal control system and reduced fraudulent activities. The findings demonstrate that effective internal control accounts for a significant portion of fraud detection success. However, the current war in Sudan has amplified systematic challenges, disrupted the operation of companies, and undermined regulatory enforcement. This instability exacerbates existing vulnerabilities in the insurance sector, making fraud prevention even more critical but harder to achieve. Despite these challenges, the study offers valuable insight into the industry's gap and highlight opportunities to strengthen its resilience through better regulatory framework, technological adoption, and collaborative measures. Based on our finding, we recommend the following action. Strengthening the internal control system by establishing a specialized internal control department with clear responsibilities, and improve fraud detection and documentation by standardized documentation procedures. Enhance regulatory framework using protective legislation for blacklist. Training and capacity building, international collaboration, introduce crisis-specific fraud reporting mechanisms. Thank you for your attention. We hope this presentation has provided valuable insight into the challenge of fraud and the importance of internal control in Sudan's insurance industry. We are happy to take any questions or comment you may have.